Alright, I think we're live now. Look at this quality. It's fantastic. I have no idea why it's this bad. This is actually a pretty good... It's supposed to be a pretty good webcam. I think it may just be the lighting. And I managed to somehow unplug this. Managed to unplug that light somehow. Give me a sec. While I go down here. There we go. Let's see here. Put that I'm going live. Get the stream. Let's see, copy. This isn't too loud. I want to have like a little background music, but I don't want it to like interrupt my thought process. If there's anything wrong with the volume, let me know. I don't do it too often, so I'm not sure if all the settings are perfect. Oh no. It's lower than recommended bitrate. No, we're not gonna worry about that. Hope there's... oh, there might be an echo. Yeah, maybe this will be the right way to do it. All right. We're going to start pretty soon. Just going to get in. Give it a sec. All right. I'm going to start it up. So, first things I want to do is show you this great video. A classic from my day. I might need to turn the mic down a little bit. Let's see. Let's go to... Yeah, there we go. There we go. The classic. What's with my webcam? I never get anywhere with these games, guys. I love that commercial. I love it so much. I'm saying I never get anywhere playing those video games. All right, so how does that transition back into the topic? And it kind of does. It kind of does. Because the question is, does Splatoon need esports? And, what really is esports? What qualifies a game as an esport? Is it simply just there being a competitive scene? You have see Splatoon, it's compared constantly to bigger games like Smash, especially since it's another Nintendo game, but League of Legends, Valorant, Fortnite, Overwatch. You have in those, you still have the same people competing at a high level. Not the same people, but high level competition. The only thing that really doesn't have, we have consistent tournaments in Splatoon. Same with these other events. You don't have official support for, with games like Valorant and things like. No, I need to top this actually. This actually is bothering. Background noise is actually bothering me while I'm trying to think. But you have, with like Riot Games, Blizzard Games, you have the company actually trying to push the esports scene versus things, like Nintendo, which is just sort of leaving it to go on its own. But even with Smash, you still have, there's definitely bigger prize pools, bigger audience, more things in general as far as just the overall size of the scene and the size of the prizes. And, people doing it full-time for a living. So, is that really the difference that we're using as the metric for things like an esport, a successful esport? So is that what it is? It's about making a living? It's obviously a huge benefit to the players when you're, putting in thousands of hours trying to develop, the skill that you're very good at this game. And, it's hard to say whether or not that'll translate, beyond that game. I mean, it certainly doesn't in terms of doing something else like playing a football or, becoming an engineer. It's not something like that. It's very concentrated to that specific area of knowledge, which, outside of the game itself, what does that exactly do? So being able to kind of turn that very specialized skill into something that can also generate revenue is, could be something very big in terms of helping the player live a decent life, or, supplement his income, something where you're improving your life based on, having that skill. It's not just strictly a hobby. And there's also the idea that, if we want people to be able to play it full time, dedicate, their full 8-hour, 10-hour days to making content, they will actually kind of be able to dedicate that time and, still pay their bills. If not, they'll be dedicating themselves like a different job, doing something else. So that could potentially hurt the amount and the quality. If, someone can actually make a decent living, they can put more time into it. They can potentially, hire someone to help with editing, a lot of different things. So the numbers definitely help both the content and the players doing it. So it's not something that can completely be ignored. The other thing I see about the esports, or the other way to look at it, is sort of a rebranding of video games. And you can even saw that in that video I played at the start, where it's like, my mom told me I'd never get anywhere playing these games. And, back in the day, like becoming a game designer or tester, actually making games was the only really anywhere near viable career to, turn your passion for video games into something that could generate money. This was, of course, before Twitch, before YouTube, before things like Let's Plays, PewDiePie. None of that stuff was around during this time. So now it's sort of so many different opportunities and ways to make a career out of video games, or, passion for video games have shot up in the past 20 years. It's ridiculous. So now you have sort of esports, going away from sort of the old way of looking at like a video game player a sort of like, fat dude in his basement, playing WoW for 16 hours a day. You've got an esport, it's a young kid, fresh looking kid with a team. They all got jerseys on. They're, the athlete of the future. Gone away are, the football team, basketball team. You don't want to get concussions and some sort of brain damage playing football. So heck, you go on your esports team. You're not gonna, maybe a wrist injury here or there, but you're not gonna have like Alzheimer's when you're 50 playing esports. So hey, it's a good way to keep your kids safe and teach them the value of teamwork. Also, kind of gets away from like the sort of like a loser, neat type of guy that the video game player of the yesteryear was. That image. So to me, esports is kind of a way to do that. It's kind of like go away from like your parents' idea of what video games were. Now, when you've got guys like Ninja being mentioned, next to LeBron James in terms of content, like commercial reach for their video, for their social media content, having the same amount of impressions or like maybe even more, then we sort of confers this status to it. Like, are these esports players just as big as one of the biggest athletes in the world? Are they on that level? Sort of that status that comes with it. Or when you see like these stories about like some 13-year-old winning like 100K playing video games, people take notice of that, and it's a way to sort of make people see these games as sort of like a legitimate activity, like a legitimate way to form a career. Well, where this, 10-hour a day dedication, or however you want to say 8-hour a day dedication, is actually going to turn into something that's going to make you money, and a significant amount of money, and also have like a significant amount of fame with it. So, your parents can feel good about it. You can feel good about it. But, is that something that Splatoon needs for, players who feel good about playing the game? Will they be able to tell, their friend they reached top 500 in Splatoon? Will, like a coworker or a classmate actually even know what Splatoon is? And I've, talked to people about like, oh, what do you do with your time? And, beyond people that are actually familiar with Smash Brothers, nobody really that I've like mentioned Splatoon 2 actually knows what Splatoon is. So it's a lot harder to kind of brag about what you've accomplished in the game if the person you're talking about has no idea what it is. Or, you can't like throw out a number like, oh yeah, I went to Japan, last year to compete in it. That's something that, you sort of brag about, like people would take notice and like, whoa, that's pretty freaking cool. But so, without that type of stuff, is there less of a benefit? Like you can't really confer status onto yourself through the game, through the accomplishments in game. So that can take away from, I guess I want to say maybe the value. You could kind of say value. There's probably a better word for it, but there is that aspect of esports, this sort of like social validation, versus the past where I'm like playing video games. That's like kind of like makes you seem like you're a guy that just doesn't do anything. The sort of neat in the parrot basement. Another way I wanted to talk about esports, I was thinking about like, what would it be helpful to compare esports to like high school, college athletics? You have recently people like play versus trying to sort of get these games into like athletics programs or athletics. It feels weird saying athletics with video games to me, but I'm just kind of I'm older like that. You know, I grew up. It was, you know, that sort of waste of time thing, that sort of stigma. But now it's, you know, now they're trying to sort of redo it, make it look like something, you know, like a legitimate team building exercise. And is it kind of helpful to look at it that way, where if you think about like a high school athletics program, or even in some cases a college athletics program, you know, is the purpose really to, you know, make people into professional athletes? I mean, you would say like no, probably not. I mean, there might be like that outlier, that super exceptional case that comes along, or, you know, maybe like the top of the top athletics programs like really do exist, like where you send your kid to that place to be part of that program because it's so good about you know, so good about preparing these people for professional athletics. But most exist basically as a way, you know, give people something to do, you know, give them some exercise, teach them, you know, the value of teamwork, value of hard work. You know, they get to work out, they get to do something with their free time, especially like for like young guys. They can work out some energy, you know, kind of show their stuff, work out some aggression. It's healthy for them, you know, beyond the injury type of thing. But mostly it's a positive for it. So can we look at esports like that? You know, is that the same type of benefit? You know, is that the greatest benefit that esports can have for the majority of people that play it? And when you look at it from that perspective, would things like leagues, you know, like Ludi, or, you know, Esports Bros, you know, the French league, or even stuff like the Plus servers, be the most important part of the esports aspect of it, where, and, you know, stuff like Playverse and like those other pilot programs that are happening right now, but like in terms of community, you know, would those be the most important things in terms of esports, in terms of helping players, you know, give them a goal that they can shoot for, giving them that sort of structure where they can see improvement in their play, and, you know, letting them work with a team, you know, where they could go like from Diviv 8 to Diviv 7, you know, they can rise up the ranks, you know, can start +0, you know, get into +3, 2, eventually to 1, sort of earn their way up and sort of see what the value of hard work, learning to work with other people, and those overall just life lessons that help you in a sort of broader aspect of life, you know, in your job, in your future career, that type of thing, you know, helps you socialize. A lot of people, gamers tend to be a little bit on the they have a hard time socializing a lot of times. I mean, I do too, so not throwing shade. But when you look at it from that aspect, is that the most important part for esports, is having those sort of structures in place to, you know, give a lot of the younger people, you know, college, a lot of high school, a lot of college level players, you know, a chance not just to enjoy the game, but giving them a framework to improve in, and, you know, sort of see themselves improve, and rewarding that. So those are kind of like all the things that I've been thinking about lately. And I mean, maybe they're all an important part of what makes things esports. But like the thing I like want to pose to you, like I'm posing a lot of questions, and I definitely want to, like, if you see in the comments or online, Twitter, whatever, like, what do you think about this? Like, what is the most important aspect of esports? You know, does it need it all? Like, or, you know, things like Ludi or any of these sort of leagues plus servers, they really mean anything if there's not, you know, something glamorous at the top to go for? You need that guy, you know, the sort of people, you know, getting trips, making salaries, that kind of stuff. You know, when you look at sort of like the NFL, like, do you need the NFL. Do you need like the LeBron Jameses, the Michael Jordans to really keep people interested, bring new people in? You know, that sort of like fame and fortune, that, you know, media attention, to really grow as a competitive sport, or, you know, as a competitive scene? Or is it more about the sort of popularity of the game itself? I mean, that's another aspect I haven't touched on, but, you know, is it just important to be overall just have a lot of eyes on the product when you see something like Among Us, you know, having competitions? Is it, does that specifically exist because it was just a popular game? Even like when you think about Minecraft, something that isn't really known as a competitive game, you still have like things like Hunger Games and that kind of stuff. You want to talk about in terms of just, you know, giving players a decent living. I mean, like, I'm sure more players have made a decent full-time job playing Minecraft than any other esport, really. I mean, just in terms of the popularity of it on YouTube, popularity of it on Twitch, people being able to grow their audience and their own brand on it. You know, Minecraft's done that probably more than any other game I can think of. So, you know, is it overall just a numbers game? You know, just having those eyes on the product, not necessarily about the quality of the competition, just being able to keep people interested. You know, in terms of that aspect, is it more important to have, you know, just streamers in general, you know, just popular streamers playing it, you know, general content creators that are bringing eyes to the game even more so than sort of the competitive events? If you think about how the viewers like on YouTube, when you look at like even competitive players like Dude or, you know, Chara, that kind of stuff that focus more specifically on competitive content, you know, are what's getting the views, you know, their videos specifically focusing on things about the game, or, you know, maybe just, you know, general ideas? Or is it really about the competitive game itself? You know, let's see, how do I want to put this? Like, when you look at, say, how many views like a tournament gets, like maybe it has like 1,000, a fairly like popular, tournament, let's see, would maybe get like 1,000 viewers on Twitch. If it got that high, you would say it's a pretty successful tournament. Then you got guys like, you know, let's see, the SRB2 Dude. He's got like how many subs? Does it say his sub count on here? All right, 70, almost 80K subscribers. Let's see, what's Chara got? He's got 13K. Then like, let's see, got like Vanetastic. He's got 200K subscribers. You know, he's just, you know, making these sort of random videos. Who's bringing more eyes? And even if you look at, say, some of this content, let's see, let's look at Dudes. Let's open up this web. No, let me hide that. No, video review. There we go. We can see, you know, how much this is actual competitive esports content. I mean, it focuses on competitive, you know, maybe he's playing it competitively, but even this, sort of the top competitive player, quote unquote, if you want to consider it that, you know, how, this is bothering me, sorry. I'm very, very particular on this. You know, this isn't, you know, him playing a game with a team, a top level team. Even if, let's see, if I look at Charas, he's probably more involved in the competitive scene. And, you know, and he's doing like analysis of his games, maybe, you know, doing reaction videos, facts, that kind of thing. But how much is people actually watching the competitive matches in Splatoon as a product? Like, I don't think it's nearly as many as, you know, people just watching smaller videos about specific creators. So there's, you know, just how big, you know, is the actual like sport of Splatoon in sort of the overall consumption of Splatoon content. Like, what percentage is that? And I'd say it's pretty darn small. Like, if I had to guess, like, people that actually watch, like, if I go to, let's just type something in, like Splatoon, competitive tournament. All right, that's been tournament canceled. Yeah, tournament, baby. Let's see. Got the World Championships 2 years ago. This actually had a decent amount of views. Sponsored by Nintendo, though. World Open. The NA Open, getting a decent amount of views. Next, maybe this 10K. This is, you know, specifically from somebody's perspective. That's specifically from, like, dude's perspective. So, beyond Nintendo, official Nintendo content, like, where brand, damn. Like, I don't see any, like, EBTV, Ink TV. Like, where is, like, actual competitive play? Oh, here we go. Ink Performance Labs. Boom. Down there. Oof. 59 views. Not, you know, don't want to hate on Ink TV or Low Ink. You know, it is what it is. There's Grant. Oh, that's on dudes too. That's dude's perspective. Like, holy smokes. This, you know, it's not good. It really isn't. I mean, I guess I'm hating on, you know, I'm hating on Nintendo tournaments, but, like, holy moly, like, this is the only, like, actual matches, you know, not specifically from a player's perspective, that come up. And these have decent view counts, but there's not a lot of eyes on the actual tournaments as a product. So, like, I've actually almost kind of lost track of what I was talking about, but this is interesting. It's actually really interesting to see what what actually gets views here. Yeah, that's actually really interesting and kind of disturbing when you think about, you know, just what is being watched from an esports perspective in the Splatoon scene. And, you know, outside of, like, some of the official Nintendo tournaments, like, is there anybody really getting views? Actually, let me look. You know, maybe I'm giving some biased stuff here. I mean, if we look over here at, this is Splatoon JP. These actually get a pretty decent amount of views. Of course, this is Japanese. Esports Pro TV. Let's take a look at these. These are getting some views. In my opinion, this is, like, my favorite. I think, you know, in terms of what they're doing the best out of any TO in the Western scene as far as providing content, tons of content. You know, these are getting a few hundred views. You know, it has 3.5K subscribers, but this is just French. This is basically just focusing in on the French scene, so they're not reaching as many people. But anyway, back to my ramblings here. I've kind of gone off. Wait, let's see. Where am I? There we go. Gone off script here. But when you look at the numbers, is competitive Splatoon really doing that well? And, that's not that much. It's more like personality versus the actual sport itself. Which, so maybe, that's something that needs to be achieved going forward. I know there was, talk about, certain things hurting the scene, in-game names, but like when you see like these tournaments streams getting only a few hundred views, like Twitch, be on Twitch, like, is there anything that lasts and gets significant views? You saw the amount of people looking at those sort of official streams, but beyond just the day that tournament happens, is anyone else looking at it? It's hard to say. Like, only the sort of people involved seem to be doing it. Like, is that really bringing new people in? Is that doing the numbers that would say like, oh whoa, that's a cool tournament, like, wow, that's neat? It's hard to say, but I'm like I said, I've kind of gone off script at this point, so I'm just gonna end it here. Let me know what you think. Like, I definitely want to hear from people in this conversation, because I've kind of really just collecting these thoughts at the moment. Like, I don't know what's the most important part of it. I mean, for me, like, what's going to bring the greatest amount of benefit to people? And I mean, maybe it is some stuff like these leagues, people doing these leagues, that's going to help, like, less the focus on the absolute top players and, more towards helping out the greatest amount of people. And then, if that takes off, is, sort of the rest going to follow? Or do you need the growth at the top? You need the top players getting more views, more people into the scene. Splatoon 3, has potential to be more popular, and it could be less. I think I'm going to make a video about, like, sort of the pitfalls that Splatoon 3 could fall into. But, if it sells better than Splatoon, or like it's like a breakthrough hit, like you saw, I think with like Strive, a lot of people would argue like Zerd's a better game competitively from a competitive sense, but Strive is sort of hitting the mainstream, really upping the popularity in terms of sales. Is kind of breaking through. Is that going to be like the breakthrough game that really makes and gives people opportunities to play it, at a high level, making money, getting, the sort of subs and subscriptions and, the sort of views that allow people to make a decent living. So could we get like a dumbed down version of Splatoon? Could it like keep going in terms of like competitive quality going down, but at the same time getting more popular? Could there be like sort of competitive catch-22? It's like the more accessible it gets, maybe the more off-putting it is to sort of dedicated fan base, but the more accessible it is towards the general audience, which in turn benefits competitive players. So a lot of things to think about, but I'm going to end it here. I don't really know what to do for an outro, but I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you listened to the whole thing. And I hope you leave your thoughts on what you think about it. Because, this is just sort of me kind of collecting things and thinking things out. So, love to hear from you. If you like, subscribe, like the video, leave me a comment. Like I said, that's the thing I'd want the most.